Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, Jon Scholes. Well, I am pleased to be joined by Ambassador Roger Nyhus, a longtime Seattleite who left Seattle to become an ambassador in the Caribbean under the Biden administration. And we discuss Roger's journey to being an ambassador, his time in the Caribbean, and his return to Seattle. Hope you enjoy my conversation with Ambassador Roger Nyhus.
Well, good to see you, Ambassador
Nyhus.
I think you're the first ambassador on our
Really?
podcast,
Okay, I like
so
that.
we feel honored to have you.
Thank you. Well, we have a few ambassadors in town, but not many.
Yeah, I know when we haven't had them. Who else? We have
Gary.
Yes, that's of course.
Susie.
Yep.
Cynthia Strom, and then Mark Gittenstein he owns a condo here, and he moved here after his service. But he was the ambassador to the EU.
Oh wow!
And
he's a good gig.
He's a best buddy of President Biden's. He's like, they vacation together and hang out, and so
now you're part of the ambassador alumni, not just here but everywhere.
That is true. Once an ambassador in the United States, once an ambassador, always an ambassador.
Yeah.
So I get the title for life.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild. It doesn't mean much in Seattle, but in DC, where I have a second home and office, it means a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. So restaurant reservations are not difficult there.
Use it. When did you know you wanted to be an ambassador? Like what's the origin story on your 2 years of service?
Absolutely.
And I know it was about 2 years of service and then a lot of preparation.
A lot of preparation. Honestly, I am a bit of an accidental ambassador. It was not a life ambition. However, I got to see what an ambassador does up close and personal with my former boss and friend, Gary Locke.
Yeah.
And he was the U.S. ambassador to China, and I visited him there. And
so you had a sense of the gig a little bit through Gary.
Had a sense. I mean, that is like one of the most important, high stakes, embassies in the world for the United States. And he did such a great job with that. But, since he's my friend, I'm like, I could do that. But I mean, but I couldn't do it in China, but I could do it somewhere. So in the back of my mind, it was always there.
You had a little seed planted from your visits with him.
Absolutely. And so when I hosted, I had the opportunity to host then Vice President Biden at my home on Capitol Hill when he was running for president and ultimately was successful. Mm-hmm. And the team that was with him really, liked me, and they asked me to help them with a variety of things, including getting a private jet for Katy Perry to sing at the inaugural. True story. And I have to thank a local person for that success, Todd Leiweke and his brother Tim. I called every person that I know with any connection to a private jet.
Planes.
And I will tell you, who owns private jets in general? They are not Democrats. Let me just be clear. So trying to get a free private jet donated, with crew and, to fly across the country. We couldn't really say who was on the jet. You can't fly with whoever's on the jet. I was able to finally, disclose that.
And you couldn't lean on your friends at Alaska. You'd advise them for years because it needed to be private.
It had to be private. It had to
fancy.
stay, in DC for as long as that person was in DC, and then fly back and pay for the gas and pay for all this stuff.
Were they testing your future ambassador skills, you think? Like, can he do this?
I do believe that played a role.
We have an assignment for you.
It really was, because it was such an outlandish request. And
you went right to work on it.
I did. And I called every person that I knew, and all of them were a pretty quick no. Or I'm not going to do it for Joe Biden, or I'm not going to do it for the Democrats. They all had jets, and a lot of people here have jets. And I just thought one day, I'm like, I'm out of contacts, and there's one more that I think might know. And he had been on the opposite side of a business deal with me, and that was the Leiwekes.
Yeah.
And because I had worked with AEG, which was their big competitor, on the arena deal.
Yep.
And ultimately, Oakview Group won and did a great job, and it's a beautiful arena. But I hadn't really stayed in touch with Todd. And so I called him up and I said, I know you're not going to believe this. I know we worked on the other sides of this deal, but I've got this cool opportunity, and it's, I need a jet for Katy Perry. And he said, we know Katy Perry. And I said, okay. And he said, I'll call you right back. He called his brother in LA, and I'm not even joking. 5-10 minutes later, he called me back and said, we're in. And
shows you what a good guy Todd is.
Todd is a great guy.
Yeah,
and
previous guest, we had him, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
phenomenal. So
Yeah,
I'm
he's a good
forever
guy.
grateful.
He likes to help.
Yeah, I'm forever grateful to the Liwikis because they delivered. And I think that was one of the things that played into my future ambassadorship.
And when did you get the official call request to offer?
Right before Biden won that election in about October of 2020, someone from the campaign high up called me and said, "Hey, we really like you. Would you like to work in DC for the administration?" And without missing a beat, I said, "Absolutely not. I have no interest in working in DC for any administration." I said, "I'm not 25 years old," because DC is run by 25-year-olds. And the second question came, "Is there anything you would like? Because we would like you to be part of this administration." And I said, no, I didn't do this to get anything. I don't want a board or a commission. So no. Third question, there's nothing you would want? And at that, I said, well, of course, how about ambassador? And the person on the other end didn't laugh and asked me if I wanted to submit my resume, and I did. And probably a few months later, after the inauguration, I was told that I was being considered.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took another year for the call to come. And you're not supposed to have any access to the process or know how it works. And so I really didn't know what was happening, but I did know I was seriously being considered. And I'm sure I was on a Post-it note on a whiteboard somewhere, and they were moving me around.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
No, and they literally say, "Do not ask for any country. We will not grant you what you want. So just, is there any place you wouldn't go?" And I said, "No, I would go anywhere. I would go to Africa, Asia, it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
And I get a call, and the senior advisor to the president on ambassadorships came to my house for the Biden event. So she knew me, and she said, "Roger, we just want to thank you so much for all your contributions. We really enjoyed working with you." And all I could think is, oh my gosh, this is like the kiss off. Like they're saying thanks, but no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, at least I got a phone call. At least I got a phone call and from the White House. And the next thing out of her mouth was, "I met with the president on Friday, and he would like you to be his next ambassador too." And then she rattled off 7 countries because I was ultimately ambassador to 7 countries. And so she's like Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. And I thought to myself, well, I know Barbados. I'm not sure I know where all the other ones are, but
they got to be close.
They've got to be close. And so I said, I accept. And she said, well, no. And she said, you can think about it overnight. And I said, I don't need to think about it. I accept. And so then it took literally 2 more years, to get through the.
And you had to make some life changes.
The biggest one. So after I accepted, about a month later, you have to fill out all these forms and background checks and all this. And I get a call from the White House lawyer, and very nice person. And he said, "So Roger, how are your forms coming?" I said, "Well, they're coming. There's lots of forms." And he said, did you know that you're going to have to sell your business?" And I said, "What?" I mean, I've had this business for 30 years. Yeah. He said, "Oh yeah, we have these really strict ethics rules in the Biden administration. Those are since gone." But he said, "You will have to sell every bit of your company. You can never go back and work with it. You can never work with the people that you sell it to, and you'll have to sell it for a fixed price, and you can't be involved in it, and they can't have your name." So I mean, like all these restrictions.
Gulp.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my God, one, I have to decide, is being an ambassador worth selling my business? And I thought about it over the weekend. I'm like, well, yeah, duh. That's like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I could always start another business. But then it was like, well, who's going to buy it? Yeah. Because usually when you buy a company, the principal stays around and for a period to make sure it's smooth and all this. And I got none of that. And so I had a lot of people tell me, "You'll never sell it. You'll never sell it." And I said, "I'm going to find somebody." And I did. The first phone call I made was to a company called DH out of Spokane. And I said, I know you do a lot of work over here. I think you should have a Seattle office, and I've got one. And that led to ultimately them acquiring the company.
Yeah, now they're just a block away around the corner here.
Exactly. And I became good friends with them, and they're
So
great people.
I didn't realize that requirement was a Biden administration requirement.
It was.
I remember meeting with you when you were in the middle of that process.
That's
And,
right. It was.
So I thought that was just sort of tradition, but
Nope,
that
it
was their own,
very much a Biden thing.
yeah, their own requirement. Huh?
And literally, so I had to leave Barbados on January 20th of 2025 on the inauguration day.
Yeah.
You literally, there's a rule, you have to be in the air out of your country by noon, because at noon you cease being a U.S. ambassador. And so I had to catch the early flight out of Barbados, Bridgetown, Barbados. I made it to the Miami airport. I ordered 2 Bloody Marys, and I sat and watched my ambassadorship slip away. And I literally watched the second hand, and it was like click, click, click. Oops. Well, I'm an ambassador. Nope. Now I'm not. So that was kind of wild. And then coming back to Seattle, but it's been.
How different was the job from what you expected the job to be? And you had a little window into it, as you mentioned earlier, through former Governor Locke, former Ambassador Locke.
I think it's okay. I had no idea what I was really stepping into. They send you to ambassador school, which was one of the highlights.
The other ambassadors.
It's these are career ambassadors. For me, it was mostly career ambassadors. There were 23 career ambassadors, including the U.S. ambassador to Russia, who is an incredible diplomat. So these became my friends. So I have friends.
And by career ambassador, you mean folks like out of the State Department?
They worked their way up through the State Department. So there are 2 types of ambassadors. There's a career ambassador, and those are the ones that start as, entry-level State Department, people, and they work their way up and they travel the globe and move every 3 years. And usually they're kind of eligible for ambassadorship about 20, 30 years into their career. And that's usually the last job they have at this, State Department would be ambassador. On the other hand, there are generally, not in this administration, the current administration, but generally there are 60 political ambassadors. And those are people that are handpicked by the president, and you serve at the pleasure of the president. And that was what my position was. So I was a political ambassador. Yeah. And I was fearful because I'd heard that the career people are resentful that these political folks are coming in and, taking jobs from career people. But in fact, it was literally the opposite. They said that the political people in general bring so much depth of experience in different areas, business, all kinds of, philanthropy, all these, areas that the career people just don't have. And when you're a political appointee, you generally have perceived more power, because you are literally a close connection to the president. So
you were chosen,
you can do a lot. I mean, ambassador is it's a crazy, amazing opportunity. The official title is Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, right?
Wow.
And so extraordinary just means these are special jobs.
Yeah.
But plenipotentiary, I did not quite understand until ambassador school. And what that means is
I'd have to go to ambassador school just to be able to pronounce that.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't spell it. So to be honest, so I learned that plenipotentiary doesn't just mean you speak for the president or you speak for the United States. It means when you're in your country that you are accredited to,
or you're 7,
or any of the 7. Yeah. So if I'm on the ground in that country, there's only one person higher ranked in the United States government, and that is the president. So you are technically higher ranked than the vice president, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, any U.S. government employee in those countries. When you're not at war, if you're at war, that's a different story. But if you're not at war, they report to you as the ambassador. So, ships that come in, military ships, the Navy comes and, like in Seattle, those ships would report to me if they were in Barbados.
Yeah.
So it's plenipotentiary means one voice. So it means when you speak, you are literally, you are the president in that moment.
Yeah.
You are the president of the United States, embodied in the ambassador. So they're incredibly powerful roles. Like you can do a lot of good and also a lot of, bad things that can happen. There's lots of checks and balances and systems in place, but ambassadors are really powerful.
Do you remember your first day, not first day in school, but after you went through your school, like your first official day?
As ambassador?
Yeah.
I do. I remember definitely a few butterflies. As an ambassador, you have an official residence. It's owned by the American people. It's a beautiful. Usually, they're very beautiful homes that are designed for entertaining. So you're constantly hosting people from the United States. You're hosting, delegations from the United States. You're hosting local people. I used the house a ton. It's called the official residence or the ambassador's residence. I used it for like advocacy. Like I'd talk about issues that were important to the United States and bring people from the United States or local people to kind of, share and learn about these issues. Or I hosted one of the funnest things I did was I brought art from 12 Seattle and Washington State artists to Barbados, and it hung in my residence as part of the Art and Embassies program. And that program was started by John F. Kennedy and was championed by the First Lady, Jackie Kennedy. And so it has this incredible history. And I brought these local artists. They were Black. My focus was on Black, Indigenous, and LGBTQ artists. And I was able to bring Anthony White, who's an incredible young artist in Seattle. He's becoming internationally known for his incredible work. And I brought him, and I brought the executive director of Artist Trust, which is a great nonprofit based on Capitol Hill. And the executive director had helped me build that exhibition. And so I was able to bring artists from Barbados together with the artists from Seattle. And it was really magical. And just the friendships that were formed, the sharing, how to become a successful commercial artist is really, it's hard for people who live in Barbados. Barbados is a long way from Seattle.
Yeah.
It is closer. If you're in Barbados, you are closer to Africa than you are to Seattle.
Yeah. So you were a connector, a convener, a counselor of such, which is kind of an extension of, your career and what you were doing in the company you built and before that and working for Governor Locke. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, did it feel, in that first day, did it feel or first weeks, once you got your feet under, did it feel natural?
The first day, I will tell you what's interesting when you walk. So the residence is separate from the embassy. So the embassy, I had an official vehicle, and security detail that was with me, anytime I was out of the house, I had security and they drove me to the embassy. And, I have a Marine contingent at the embassy that protects the embassy itself. And, they salute the ambassador every time the ambassador comes and goes. And it was very, there's a lot of tradition in an ambassadorship. And it's really humbling, honestly, to have, a young Marine, salute you when you enter your workplace every day.
Yeah.
And when an ambassador enters a conference room inside the embassy, every single person stands up. It's tradition, and it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest. You walk in a room and there are 30 people, and everyone jumps out of their chair, and you have to say, "Oh no, please sit down, please sit down." and
I know you learned that you're supposed to eat first too, right?
Oh yeah, this I did not know. It was not totally clear to me until I arrived in Barbados and I hosted lots of meals. And so when you're at the residence, I had a chef, that serves the function of engaging these communities, and I had an amazing house manager who I adored. Her name was Norma, and we totally hit it off. And we would play practical jokes on each other like all the time, but which was very un-ambassador-like. But we had a good time. And what I learned is, it's very formal. There's there's Embassy China, like it has the seal of the United States on it, official China, and every piece of China is, cataloged, and if you break one, you have to catalog it and report it, and like it's just like it's very interesting because I'm used to going into the kitchen and grabbing a glass, and there are no like casual wear. You have to bring your own casual wear, but when you're eating, no one touches their food or drink until the ambassador does. And I didn't know this. So I had this huge square table, and I have like 16 people at this dinner, and I'm visiting, and I like to engage everybody at the table, and we're chatting, and I look around and no one's eating. And one of my staff is like frantically like pointing at the fork, like pick up the fork, pick up the fork. So once I picked up the fork, and I was like, bon appetit, and everyone, was, but they knew the rules, like because
they need to put that in the school curriculum. That's a mess.
I would have thought so too.
Yeah, that's an important detail.
We talked about policy and not the fork. Yes, I learned.
I know you had some pretty notable guests that came through as well.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I think the most notable that was the most interesting to me and is my current wallpaper on my iPhone is Rihanna. And most Americans will know her as Rihanna, but her name is actually Rihanna, and that's how she pronounces it, and everyone in Barbados pronounces it. But she doesn't care because she's a successful, entrepreneur, billionaire, entertainer. I mean, she's amazing. So she came to my office in the embassy. I had 24 hours notice that she was coming. And first thing I thought was, oh my God, what am I going to wear?
What was bringing her by?
She had business with our, the consular services, like visas, things like that.
Yeah.
So she's a Barbadian. So Barbadian is a citizen of Barbados, or also known as Bajan. Casually, they're called Bajan. So she's Bajan. And, but she lives, in the United States and other places. She has homes in many parts of the world. And so she has to have a special visa to come and go in the United States. And so we were helping her with that.
And you're thinking, what am I going to wear?
I was thinking, what am I going to wear? Because seriously, that was the most important thing, because I knew that I
wanted to receive her in style.
I wanted to receive her in style. And I will tell you, that photo will go down as my favorite photo ever.
Hard to top that.
It is hard to top that.
Of the two of you.
It is. And she looks amazing. And so when you go into the ambassador's office, you're not allowed to bring any electronics, no smartwatches, no phones, nothing. It's all for security reasons. You can't, because any electronic can be, hacked into, and so we are not allowed to bring any electronics. So I was like out of touch for most of my friends for large periods of time during my ambassadorship because I didn't have access to my phone. And so I'm meeting with Rihanna in my office, and instead of like this big entourage, she brings her best friend from Barbados, her brother, and we had a staff member that knew her. So that was it. And so we talked for probably about 45 minutes. Did not once talk about her music, although many of my friends are bummed that I didn't ask about her next album, or when she's going to come out with some new music. I did not ask her about Fenty, which is her wildly successful, makeup and underwear company. And we talked about issues that, she's very savvy, very smart, very engaged. She is the only living national hero of Barbados. So she's really a global ambassador for Barbados, and she comes home for important, holidays, important civic engagements. She's there now. I've seen a bunch of photos from this week. She's been participating in some like cultural events, as well as a funeral of another important national hero who was a legendary cricketer. And so it's, she's in Barbados, she's viewed as, a much loved local person. Yeah. She's not viewed as an, international celebrity. Like, she will show up at parties and bars, and you'll see her playing with her kids in the ocean. And, it's really quite cool that the celebrity hasn't gone to her head.
Yeah. And kind of one of those experiences you maybe only get by being an ambassador.
I think I would not have met her if it weren't for the ambassadorship. And one of the cool things at the very tail end of you could tell she was ready to like wrap up our conversation. And I said, before you leave, I have something for you. And I ran into my storeroom, and I had worked with the Stonington Gallery here in Pioneer Square, which I love, Native American art. And I worked with one of their artists, Dan Friday, who's a glass blower. And when I was on my way to Barbados, I had commissioned custom glass feathers for each of the prime ministers, because I would be working very closely with them. And it would be a connection to my native heritage, but also to Seattle. And I had not given any of them out yet. And I made 2 extras in case I broke one. And I pulled one of those out and I presented it to Rihanna. And she was like visibly touched, but I'm like, okay, she's a good entertainer. So maybe she's just being nice, but she was clearly like touched by this. And I asked about the meaning of this feather. It's like about 12 inches. You know, it's a beautiful piece of art. And in the box, I put a bio on the artist and didn't think anything of it. A couple months go by and I reach out to the artist and Dan Friday. I said, hey, Dan, we should catch up because I have some really cool news for you. And we do a little Zoom call. And I said, there's someone really famous that has one of your feathers. And he said, I know. I said, how do you know? I haven't told anybody. And he said, she reached out to me directly.
Wow.
And he was traveling and he gets a DM from Bad Girl Riri. And he's like, who the hell is this? And it was
websites have I been surfing?
And it's Rihanna. And she's reaching out to him and she said, I love your art.
Could have easily deleted it.
Oh yeah, easily. And he could have missed it, deleted it, all the things. And she said, I love your art. And she said, the next time I'm in Seattle, I would like to stop by your studio.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So I thought that she's cool. Like that is so cool to take the time to do that. Like it was amazing. And for no other reason than to like say, I really appreciate and value the work you do.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
But
Shows the kind of human she is.
She is. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that the ambassadorship opens doors that, you know, honestly, even now, I mean, when you're in that kind of club of this former ambassador, I can call pretty much any U.S. ambassador, Republican, Independent, Democrat, doesn't matter, because we all know what it's like.
Yeah, what a network.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I had an event at my place in D.C. and I had 40 ambassadors there.
Oh, wow.
And it was so cool because I'm like, and these were career people there. And I actually have a great deal of respect for the career people because they're the real diplomats. Like I can play one on TV and like we bring, you know, the political people bring different, you know, just different experience and different skills. And I think having the PR background, the communications background was perfect for the job because so much of it is communications and problem solving and crises.
Yep.
You know, we had the worst hurricane in history hit the region when I was there, and just managing through all those types of things.
Yeah, it must have felt very natural given your long career in that work and those worlds.
Absolutely.
So you're sitting at the Miami airport with 2 Bloody Marys, and then you re-enter.
I re-enter. Yes.
Yeah. So what was that like? You come back to you came straight back to Seattle.
I did.
Right?
I was in Barbados in the morning and Seattle in the evening, same day, and it was
in 2025.
In 2025.
Yeah.
And I honestly went into like a little cocoon for, you know, a few months.
You didn't tell anybody you're back.
I didn't tell anyone I was back. In fact, many people in Seattle think I moved to DC because, you know, when I bought a home in DC at the end of last year.
Yeah, recently.
Yep,
right?
recently. But because I hadn't made a big splash when I came back home.
Yeah.
And I tried selling my house on Capitol Hill.
Before I took the
ambassadorship. It did not sell.
Yeah.
So I took it off the market. I'm so grateful it didn't sell.
Yeah.
Because I had a place to come back to.
Yeah, what a special place.
I love it. Yep. The Seattle White House.
And you just had Dr. Jill Biden there.
I did.
A week or two ago I saw.
That's the cool thing about Seattle. Like,
what brought her out? What was that about?
So part of it was her book. You know, she just had this best-selling book she had written, and also they're starting to talk about the Biden Presidential Center, which is kind of his library. And I think they're trying to like understand what people around the country would be looking for in something like that. And so I assembled a group to chat with her, and it was very special.
Yeah.
It
was that kind of a full circle moment for you from
completely.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was surreal because I have Jill Biden in the exact place where Joe Biden was 7 years before.
Yeah.
Like, and how much my life has changed since then. And I was showing her a photo of Joe and me standing, on my staircase.
Yeah.
And she's like, and she was standing in the same spot. And she said, I'm going to take this home and I'm going to have him sign it for you. And I said, okay. And I thought, okay, I've never seen that photo again.
She's going to set it down, and it's going to be under a newspaper, and you lose it.
A week later, I get this brown envelope, like Sharpie, no special, like nothing. It just this nondescript brown envelope. I opened it up, and it was a photo hand signed by the president.
That's cool.
And I was like, I love them.
Do.
I love them. They're good people.
Since 2006, Urban Renaissance Group has drawn on its deep roots in the Pacific Northwest to create places that inspire and connect. As a local owner, operator, and developer of commercial real estate, URG is proud to steward a portfolio spanning nearly 12 million square feet across Seattle, Bellevue, and Portland. To learn more about how URG is shaping the future of our region, follow Urban Renaissance Group on LinkedIn or visit their website at urbanrengroup.com.
So it had to feel good to still have your place once you re-entered.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Seattle, what I love about Seattle is you can be a big fish in a little pond.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you can do, look at what you do, John, and DSA. You can have so much impact. And I think because we come from this area of innovation and entrepreneurship, that is like expected. Like, go for it. Go, shoot for the moon, do big things. And I don't think every place is like that.
And you're kind of welcome back.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to be like, I was able to celebrate the First Lady's 75th birthday. She did not like me using the number, but I did. I got to celebrate with her in New York, and the president was in New York. And from that event, I was asked to host her in Seattle, and it was wonderful. I brought, because I grew up, as you know, on the coast of Washington in a small fishing town, Westport. And my family heritage is I'm most of my business friends don't know this. My close friends know this, that I'm Native American.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is Norwegian, so I have blonde hair, but my heritage is through my mom. I'm Native American, and I'm a member of the Chinook Indian Nation. Mm-hmm. And so I have strong ties to the coast, and I'm still very involved in the tribe. But I was down there, and I was informed that I had a week to organize this event with the First Lady in Seattle. And I was staying at the Tokeland Hotel. And if you haven't stayed at the Tokeland Hotel, it is absolutely a magical place. It's the former owners of the Wandering Goose up on Capitol Hill, which was a beloved like breakfast place and baked goods. They closed up their shop on Capitol Hill, bought the Tokeland Hotel, installed and expanded the Wandering Goose restaurant in the Tokeland Hotel, and now they have 3 meals a day. Cool. It is phenomenal. So I'm there, and I said, I think we should get the Tokeland Hotel to cater this event with the First Lady. And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they had Willapa Bay, fresh shucked oysters, all the amazing baked goods, crab cakes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you could have any amazing Seattle restaurant do
lots
something.
Of choices, but
to have it from my home
very
region
cool. No,
was
I'm really
cool.
sad to have missed it.
It was, yes.
Like
I'm sorry you weren't. You definitely were invited, and I would have loved to have you there. There'll be more events.
Yeah. So you started a company, Ambo Strategies. You've referenced you've got an office and a home now in DC and a presence now in both Washingtons. How did you come to the decision around this new company of yours and sort of leveraging this incredible network that you've built, but also the network that you had prior to your ambassadorship
absolutely.
And all your experience, business and political and communication and public affairs experience?
Well, what was when I having a life event where you're forced to do something that you weren't planning, it does make you
Selling
think,
the business.
Yes, selling the
Yeah.
business was an unexpected and kind of, I feel blessed that I had the opportunity to do that because like when else am I going to be invited to become an ambassador? It's just, this is a once in a lifetime thing, as I mentioned before. But when I came back, obviously I was hoping there would be more time in Barbados. And I would have, if a Biden administration or a Harris administration had won, I probably would have stayed on for a while longer, not 4 years, but, maybe another year or so. But so I come back after serving as ambassador for a little more than, on the ground, a little more than a year. Like I was commissioned earlier, but once I was on the ground.
Yeah.
And I got to do so many cool and amazing things. I don't feel like I missed out on anything by not staying longer. So when I came back, I was like, okay, I need to take a fresh stock and figure out what I want to do next. And what I realized, having worked with the State Department, is I do not like reporting to anyone else. I like being my own boss. I like being an entrepreneur. They're all well-intentioned people, or most of them anyway. And I just
Because you hadn't had a boss for a while.
No.
Yeah. We all have bosses, right?
Yes,
you had
we
a
all
lot
have
of
bosses,
you had
but-
a lot of clients.
Yes, I had lots of
A lot
clients,
of
but it's
great
different.
clients.
But it's very different, And when you're ambassador, what's cool about being ambassador, one, you don't have to run for election. You are literally plopped into some amazing country somewhere, and you are the boss. Like what an ambassador says is golden, and that is just the way it is. And and people in DC are kind of monitoring, but you're so far away. And to be honest, they're small countries, so they're not as high on the priority list. But I did throw the 7 countries into ChatGPT, and the closest U.S. city in population is what, John?
To those 7 countries?
To those 7 countries.
Is it Seattle?
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
Isn't that crazy?
You were meant to be the ambassador of those.
Thank you. I think so too. So I shared that with people in the region because they were like, well, why are you here? Like, and I said, well, first of all, I grew up on the coast in a town, fishing town and a tourist, small tourist destination.
Yeah.
I grew up, Native American. I grew up, they loved the stories about and Seattle
You're drawing
was,
out your connection to this new place.
Exactly.
Had you been there before?
I had not.
Yeah.
And I told the White House that they said there are a couple of funny things about being an ambassador. One is you're expected to pay for a bunch of things yourself. And I'm not in the billionaire category. When you're a billionaire, and there are many of those that are ambassadors.
Many ambassadors are.
And hundreds of millionaires. And then I was joking with my friends in the White House. I said, I think I'm probably in the bottom 5. And without missing a beat, she said, no, you are at the bottom. And so they ask you, they said, are you prepared to literally
There's no stipend.
Yeah, you have to pay for events. You pay for your household staff, like for your chef, your house. You had a house manager, a housekeeper, a gardener. I pay for a portion of that. Wow. And
like your HOA dues.
It's like HOA, but they're significant.
Yeah.
And then, or you get to pay for the Easter egg roll and the bouncy house for the kids,
Wow.
which are fun. Or
Who would have thought
the marine ball.
They reveal all this after you accept.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And they say, "Are you prepared?" Because you're literally going to make no money.
I've already agreed.
I already agreed.
I'm in. I can't disappoint the president.
I pretty much paid.
That's just good to know.
Oh yeah,
in case I
it's
ever
good
get
to
the
know.
call. Roger.
You might get a call, John.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
hire you as an ambassador.
Yeah.
You're the best ambassador of downtown that there ever was.
I'm glad I don't have to pay for any of that, though.
Well, that could be a precedent that we adopt at DSA.
Man, so you start this company.
Yes, I started Ambo, and my intention was to pick the things that I was most interested in my career and as ambassador, and only do those things.
Yeah.
And so the things are working with CEOs, boards, family offices, very high level folks who have big decisions to make. And so I help them think through high stakes issues and ideally solve them or come up with strategies to address them. And that could be just a leadership transition. It could be a divorce. It could be all kinds of different things that are happening in these organizations. Second is reputational issues, and the third is crises. And so I'm like a consigliere to high level people to help them solve problems.
Yeah.
And so I'm a truth teller, which, I've had clients that have certainly fired me for telling the truth, which is you shouldn't do this because you're going to get in trouble. And they don't like hearing that.
Yeah.
Or I had a pretty famous Seattle client who I will not name who fired me because I told him he should not wear his $10,000 Italian suit, to in front of his employees who were making minimum wage. And he didn't like hearing that. So I got fired. And I was okay with that. I was.
Oh, we never heard what you were wearing for Rihanna. Let's get that quickly.
It's a beautiful blue suit. I had this kind of cool orangey red tie, white shirt, crisp white shirt. And honestly, I have this.
Socks or no socks?
Oh, I definitely, as an ambassador, you wear socks.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
and in the Caribbean, it's very formal. Like you have to wear like light wool suits. No linen.
No linen, huh?
No linen. You could do
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
No, you can do casual, like at a party or something.
Yeah.
But for official duties, it's a wool suit. So, and it's dark. They want dark blue or brown, or not even brown, black or blue are the two acceptable colors. And it's shocking because it is 85 degrees every single day. And you're like, oh my gosh. It's like, I put it on. But once you get into it, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do it. And there's a nice ocean breeze. But the cool thing about Barbados is I think there are opportunities between Barbados and Seattle. And no one but me sees that right now.
Yeah.
And I think Saltchuk sees it a little bit because they have a shipping company in the region. But,
they do.
But it's called Tropical Shipping.
Oh,
and
really?
They were a big.
So there are some business connections.
That's
great.
And so my goal, and you're going to hold me accountable to this, is I have already invited the Prime Minister of Barbados to visit Seattle. She has said yes. And now it's all about the logistics and finding time that works for her. And, she's one of the busiest people I've ever known. And she's a global leader. Her name is Mia Motley. And incredible. She's had 2 profiles written in the New York Times about her. She's widely known as a foremost expert on island nations and also on climate change, because all of these countries are facing severe climate impacts. And the economies of this region is like 70-80% tourist dependent. So when you have a hurricane, what happens? There's no tourism. Like you shut down the entire economy of these countries. And so they are really looking to diversify their economies. And I think we have enough bright minds and companies here that could help this region, from Microsoft and Amazon and a lot of the others. I mean, we have great country. I did talk with Alaska Airlines about a future flight to Barbados, but I think it might be a little far for the for their aircraft. But I think that most people on the West Coast do not visit that region.
No, that's right.
Very much a Europe and East Coast.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here we go to Hawaii and
it's
to Mexico.
It's so rich in, the history is so incredible. I mean, this is the region, Barbados in particular, that was the receiving, place for the slaves from enslaved people from West Africa. So, I mean, millions and millions of people have passed through that region. Some of them coming to the United States, others going to other countries. Many of them died, with the sugarcane industry and economy. I mean, that was like Britain's like cash cow. I mean, they had made so much money from the sugarcane, sugar, molasses, rum, all of that it was just a highly protected region. So that region is, I served all former British colonies. And I asked at one point too, because I had very close friends that were local people. I said, what, do you hold any grudges against, Britain for, the UK for, the slave trade? And they said, no, it's a very painful history. And, but they don't talk about it a lot. And as a parting gift from my beloved Norma, who's become like a family member to me, she gave me 2 very cherished artifacts from her family. She gave me this like 100-year-old iron that was a hand iron that would have been used probably by slaves that were, ironing clothes for their masters. And then she gave me this little tin measuring cup for rice, and that was like what they were allotted for their food. And I mean, these are like passed down, through generations. And the fact that she gave them to me was really meaningful to me.
Yeah,
and
very cool.
I
Ties back to your time there.
It totally,
Yeah.
and it reminds me a lot actually of the way Native American people have been treated, in the United States. I mean, in many of these islands, there are no indigenous people. They were all wiped out, and there are a few pockets that are remaining. And I got to meet, the largest group in Dominica. They're called the Kalinago, and it was really, I got to meet the chief and met a lot of the kids that are living there, and it was really impactful to have like an indigenous to indigenous connection. And so I was able to, share with them my story, and they were so gracious in hosting me and showing me their territory, which is very cool. Because Dominica, that most of us would know, is the backdrop for the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Yeah,
because it's called the Nature Island, and it's the local people say it's the only island that Christopher Columbus would recognize, because it's so beautiful and highly vegetated that it doesn't look like it's overdeveloped like every other island. So it was really,
so it proved to be a relevant assignment for you as far as a place and its history and connections to your own upbringing. And
absolutely,
yeah.
And I will say that it really strengthened my love for the United States, and for, I've always been patriotic, but I know we're not perfect, and we see that every day. But I do think that the American people are good people who care about the world and care about other people. And I think that the being an ambassador, in a place where I'm the minority, these are 80-90% Black countries, and to be like, it's humbling to know, their history, and to learn from them and respect their culture. And I highly recommend travel to anyone, and especially to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, because it's only 2 flights. You go to Miami, and then you fly direct to Bridgetown.
Yeah.
And you go to it's easy to get to the other islands once you're in Barbados.
Yeah. So when you came back, curious, after being gone for a bit from Seattle, what's your perspective on the city? I mean, you're someone who's always had strong opinions. You're a truth teller, as you acknowledged, and you've been in the political and civic space for a long portion of your career, advising companies and elected officials and others. Like, so did it feel like much had changed from when you departed?
It did. I actually felt that it was improved. Like it felt like downtown was coming back. I felt like the street experience was way better. It felt cleaner. It felt like I was really encouraged, because to be gone for a full year and I came back for a funeral, but that was it. I didn't really experience downtown for a full year, and I felt like it was improving. I mean, obviously we had ways to go, but I was really encouraged. And I actually went and met with Bruce and Bruce Harrell, Mayor Harrell, and had coffee with him. And I said, "Hey, great job," because I'm really in progress. But I hope you will be bold. Be bold. There's more. There's so much more to do in Seattle. And unfortunately, I mean, that didn't happen, and we are now in a real pickle. It reminds me, I advised Paul Schell after WTO, and I got hired by the city to essentially help the mayor recover from a really horrific crises and communications snafu.
Was this the Mardi Gras?
That was Mardi Gras, and it was
Christchurch.
WTO.
Oh, right.
And it was just on and on. And I will tell you, watching the current mayor, and the response to the shooting, it brought me back to those days. And just
what is your take on all of that, of the last few weeks, and how
it's embarrassing,
all that was handled?
It's embarrassing. It really is.
What would your counsel be if you were advising?
Boy, I would say hit the reset button and get some help. Like get some professional help. Like they are in deep trouble. I think this is a crisis that will be hard to overcome because they keep digging the hole deeper, and they're not really truly being accountable for what happened. Because I will tell you, there are protocols in this city for a crisis. The city, we have an amazing emergency operations center. The police know how to manage crises like this. You don't need the police chief in town to manage a crisis. That is, in fact, they often get in the way.
And to communicate with the public.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do not. Someone said, hold that press conference until the mayor's there. I mean, that is the only explanation possible. And the police would not have said that. I know, because I worked in the city. I worked in the mayor's office. And I was the communications lead for the city on 9/11. And we had news conferences every hour. We weren't even attacked. Like we had our own news conferences every hour because we thought this Seattle could be attacked, and we were informing the public what
There's a lot that wasn't known.
There was a lot that wasn't known,
but
to have like an active shooting and now we still don't know what's happened with this third potential shooter
or more,
and like it just feels really inept. And I am sad for the city because I feel like we were on such a high after the World Cup. And I think everybody in Seattle should be so proud of what we did for the World Cup. And I watched the initial match from DC. And I was in my home in DC when the first matches were taking place here. And Seattle looked so spectacular. And and the commentators and the public and the interviews, everyone was just like, this is very typical of Seattle. We need outside validation. We don't value ourselves as much as other people value us, right? And so, but to hear that over the course of the World Cup and to have it come off flawlessly, and I'm not even a big soccer fan. I loved it. I walked through Pioneer Square, on a watch party. I went to Pacific Place. I just loved seeing the activity and the pride, and we were it just felt like we are going to leverage this moment. And then the shooting happened, and it just kind of deflated a lot of that.
Tragic on so many levels. Certainly for those killed and injured and people that were there,
it's completely tragic for those families. There's no question. But I will tell you, there's going to be a point in this city where we stop treating these positions as, just kind of not a priority. We don't take them seriously. We treat it like, I grew up in a town of 1,200 people. If a Fisher person, is elected mayor and they flop, it's no big deal. You can suffer through that, right? But when you're in a major city, we don't treat ourselves like a global city. And we're a small global city, but we are on the global radar. And we elect someone who has zero experience, not even managing a budget. So I think that we are in for a rough ride. And I think, the tricky part is, do we continue to watch it devolve, or do we somehow intervene and try to help and offer assistance? Because we need the mayor to be successful, no matter who it is.
Absolutely.
And I think our city will suffer if, there's been a lack of confidence in our city government for quite a while. This only makes it worse.
Yeah, we're in a challenging spot, no doubt.
Very, very challenging.
Couple concluding questions to throw at you. Your first job. You took a paycheck, not cash, under the table.
Yes. My first job was a job that there's a through line from this job to me sitting here with you, Jon. So I was the Westport Charter Association Derby announcer in Westport, Washington. And I did this for 2 summers, and I ran the fishing derby. I would go to all these charter offices and sell derby tickets, and their customers would buy them, go out into the Pacific Ocean, catch a salmon, come back. I would weigh it at a central weigh station, and the top 3 heaviest salmon of the day would win prizes. And so I ran this thing, and there was a system of loudspeakers in the town. And so my voice would be over these loudspeakers from 4 a.m. until like 4 p.m. And I loved it. I wanted to be a broadcaster after that. So I was like, I'm going to go on King 5 and I'm going to work for King 5 News.
Yeah.
So
wow.
And Gene Anderson and Aaron Brown used to be my like total role models.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, Gene is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I just think that was my first real job. And I would have
only in Westport.
Only in Westport.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a lot of those gigs around.
There are not. And I have a great photo of me in these yellow slickers, kind of like you see at Pike Place Market.
Yeah.
And with fish guts and blood and all that. And, I've got a big smile and yeah.
So what's your through thread from that to where you are
Well,
now?
so
How
I
do you
wanted to
connect?
go into broadcasting because of that.
Yeah.
I went to the UW for 2 years and then transferred to Pullman because they have a better broadcasting program. Well, while I'm in Pullman, I end up liking the print journalism side and PR. So I graduate from WSU and go into journalism at the for the Associated Press. Then from there, I went into corporate communications and I worked at Washington Mutual. Russell Investments was my first client when I started my business. My first company, Nyhus Communications. And so all of that is just like, it's all connected.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
From the Derby.
From the fishing derby.
From the fishing derby. And then our final question, Roger, what's your perfect Saturday in Seattle?
Oh, that's so easy. Like I would start at a Pike Place Market.
Yeah.
I would shop at Socio's, my favorite, and pure food, fish people, and get all my food. I would, while it's probably still chilling in my car, I would take a walk down the waterfront, and I love the Olympic Sculpture Park. I would definitely do that. And while I'm staying downtown, I'd probably have lunch where I had lunch today at Carmine's in Pioneer Square. I love that spot and sit in the bar, and that's kind of a fun, like, private space.
Yeah.
I'd probably swing by Nordstrom and take a peek at the men's department and, keeping my dollars, my clothing dollars here in downtown. I would probably also go to the Seattle Art Museum because I'm a member there and I love art. And I think Sam does a really nice job, and they have a new director, a new curator.
Yeah.
They're going to do some big things. And I would probably just hang out for happy hour with one of my friends who lives in Belltown and make dinner. Maybe I could bring my groceries up and have, salmon and asparagus or something.
Yeah.
But I love downtown. And then go to the Fifth because the Fifth is like my very special spot in my heart for the Fifth Avenue Theater.
That's a heck of a day.
That's a busy day.
I love it.
Yes, but that would be that's like a 36 hours in, downtown Seattle.
Yeah, I love it. You could write that for the New York Times. It's good. Well, thanks for making time for this. Fun to hear about your last few years, and there's plenty more we could have talked about from your career prior to your ambassadorship and the great brands and companies in this city and region that you had a lot of influence on and in working with in their direction. So maybe part two. But
I would love it.
It's fun to hear your stories from Barbados and those 6 other countries.
Absolutely. Well, and I before we end, I want to share a very traditional ambassador role. So as ambassadors, we have...
you have one of those feathers?
I do not.
The other feather?
Yeah, I do. You can come visit my feather in my house on Capitol Hill. But as an ambassador, you often have a challenge coin. And, the challenge coins are really special. They're primarily, military or high government officials. And I traditionally, and most people traditionally, give a challenge coin to someone who does something special. Either they've done something special for you or they do important things in the world. And I think both apply to you, Jon, and to DSA. So I'm presenting to you my official challenge coin, which on one side is my personal side, which has my native seal from the Chinook Indian Nation. And then on the other side has the State Department seal. And I have 7 stars for the 7 countries. And so...
Oh, that's awesome. Yep, that's right. And you can't drop it.
You can't drop it. Do not drop it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's got some heft to it too.
So the maker of this challenge coin makes the presidential challenge coins as well. And we have to personally buy them. Like, we pay for them.
Yeah.
The government doesn't pay for them.
It's part of all of your
It's part of the payment plan. I know, I should have taken a loan for this job.
No, this is great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thanks for making time for this.
Thank you. Thank you for all your great work.
Well, hope you enjoyed my conversation with Roger. Really appreciate him making time to come on Seattle City Makers. He's been a longtime friend, has worked with some incredible brands in the city of Seattle, and it was fun to hear his story and journey of the journey to becoming an ambassador and what that role entails. So we're glad to have him back here in the city and have him bi-coastal now with the presence in Washington, D.C., and appreciate him making time. I want to close out with a recommendation of something to check out in downtown Seattle, and I've highlighted this a few times in the last couple of years as we've anticipated the opening of Death & Co., the fabulous cocktail bar that started in New York City that has had plans to open here in Seattle for some time. And first, I think it was last year that they were going to open, and then it was June, and then it was August. It is now early September. Death & Co. will open in Pioneer Square in the gorgeous Rail Spur project. I am looking forward to this. It's terrific space. They do a great job with locations in New York, D.C., Denver, I think L.A. as well, and now Seattle. So we welcome them. Roger, I will buy. I'll buy the first round there, and look forward to having a cocktail with you and many other great Seattleites in this new, fabulous establishment. So go check it out. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association, with support from James Cito and production by Thread Theory.